And good morning. How's everybody doing today? This is Rich Harshaw. We're here for our TMAC Tuesday Morning Ad Clinic. And I see that our first participant today is John Wiley. But John, I see your phone is not unmutable. What you're going to need to do is punch in your audio pin. Now here's what you need to do. This is a specific audio pin for John. If you will please hit the following keys on your keypad, it will get you ready to roll here. Pound 107 pound. There we go.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, wow, I already did that, Rich. That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? If you don't push that audio pin, then I can see that you're on there, but it won't allow me to unmute your line. So
okay, great.
Just a little technicality to get us started. So how's it going today?
Good. You?
Well, you know what? I'm fresh and ready to go. We haven't had a Tuesday morning ad clinic in a couple of weeks, and I'm raring to get after it and let her rip here. I see we've got a sign we're going to look at from you today and some postcards. You want to start with the sign or the postcards?
Well, you tell me. When I was talking to Judy about this, she asked me to send her some postcards and a copy of my current sign. So really, I'm not, other than the fact that as I'm staring at my sign, I'm going, oh, my God, energy. Not even spelled correctly on the sign.
Yeah, I looked at that, and I looked at it for about 10 seconds, and I went, that's wrong, but I don't know what's wrong about it. It took me 10 seconds to figure out that the spelling was wrong. But
I know, I just noticed that. Thank God I didn't purchase but one train car load of those, so I'm sure I can get that corrected easily.
Well, you know, those kinds of things do happen.
Hey, before we get cranking on this thing, Rich, I want to tell you how excited I am to be hooked up with you guys. And I actually got signed up with you guys last spring, and then we kind of went through the website development and all that stuff. And I'm real happy with my website. I've had a lot of compliments on that. I think Ben and Dale are great assets to your company, as is Judy. But I'm moving into a time when my business is going to start picking up here, February, March, April. So I want to tell you this real quick. I'm a bike rider, and I took my bike out to New Mexico right before Christmas. About a 7 to 8 hour drive. All I did is listen to your tapes on the way out there, and so I kind of am getting a handle.
You poor thing.
Well, no, actually, it's pretty interesting to me. I'm trying to get a handle on all this, and after being involved with you for a while, and then listening to these tapes, I'm going, oh yeah, now I know why they're doing that. And before, I didn't know why stuff was being done. I just didn't understand it, but very interested in utilizing my membership with you guys, and hopefully that we can develop some strategies and tactics that will work. So I think more this is your call and you're going to run this thing, but I think more what I wanted to do is I believe in this program that I have, a computer imaging program which can put products on people's house. So I sent a couple of examples of those. And I actually have used those in neighborhoods in the past. But my problem is again, after listening to your tapes, I've never really had a system for keeping these things going in front of people. And so this is just, you better get used to talking to me, because I am going to use you a lot in the next several months. I've never developed a good system for getting these postcards to people and frequencies of mailings. I just kind of thought, hey, I'll mail one. That'll hit a home run with people, but that's not been the results. But I still do believe in this program, and I really learned on my trip that I need to have multiple mailings to people, keep pounding them in front of them. So anyway, I just provided you with a couple of postcards. The one that actually says "Make your home new again" on the back are pictures, before pictures of houses, and then the other one actually had my sign on it, or what I can do with my computer. So I'm kind of lost on developing the verbiage on the back of these cards, and then frequencies of mailings and that type of stuff. So I'm kind of relying on you to provide some input on that.
Okay, so let's take a look here. I pulled up this file labeled postcard.pdf. See a picture of a house. Whoops. And what am I looking at here?
Okay. This is the front of the cards are just this. These are houses that well, let me tell you, my I'll use the term strategy on this. When I do jobs in neighborhoods, what I do is I found to be kind of cool to do is I drive around and I take pictures of homes in the neighborhood. And if you look at the back of, well, got to stay on task here. What you're looking at are homes that people could possibly use my products. And on the other side of the card, it says, make your home new again. I thought, hey, that's a great thing to get people to look at their own house with new products on it. Man, I'll get tons of phone calls. Well, it actually didn't work out that way. My strategy for mailings in an area where I'm doing jobs is to actually put an exact replica of my sign, thinking that the people would tie in, wow, I've seen that sign in the neighborhood. Wow, that's what that guy does. But it's got their house on it with, products already applied. So I need some assistance on whether you think this is a good idea, a good starting card. Again, I haven't been doing multiple mailings, which in listening to your tape somewhere out in the Texas Panhandle, I said, yes, that's what I need to do. Anyway, this is a start. This is one of many ideas I have, so I kind of wanted to see what your ideas were on this.
Okay, so you see a house on a photograph on your screen, is that right?
Yep. It's a back porch of a guy's house, and it's got a grill in it.
Okay, and what is this supposed to represent?
Well, it's his house. Actually, this particular purpose of me mailing these or sending these to you is to show you the capabilities that I have with a computer program. If you look at this guy talked to me about enclosing his back porch and putting sliding windows on it and putting a little brick wall, and he's going to buy windows from me. And I said, wow, why don't I just kind of produce that for you and show you what that looks like? And I've sent you some other pictures with exactly the same house.
Okay, so here's the next one, right?
There you go. There
okay.
You go.
And now,
that's what I can do with a computer.
Where would I see this?
Well,
because to me they look disconnected. So.
Okay, I don't mail the card with nothing on it. I mail a card. There you go. What's on the screen right there is what I mail to people in neighborhoods. That's what I mail to them. And
okay, so
this shows their house.
I understand that. Let me ask you this. What am I looking at? Is this literally one side of a postcard that has two images on it, or is this two sides of two different postcards?
No, these are two complete separate postcards. They're two complete separate postcards.
And this would be on the other side of one of them.
Right, exactly.
Now, what about this picture? This is just showing me for my reference what they used to look like?
Right, that's just showing you what I do. But then if you flip that card over, the other one, that card, if you flip that card over, that has a sign on it and a copy of my sign. Whoa, that's not the way you got it. See, on mine that I sent you, we tried to send you images of the sign on the back. Maybe you didn't get that.
Right there.
Yeah, right.
It's all in the same file.
Right, okay, cool. So my thinking on this is that if my sign is visible to, the neighbors right around that house, if I send them a picture of their house with my products put on their house, my thinking, again, I'm not a marketing guy, my thinking was, wow, people might go, that's my house. And then they look at the back to see what the hell's on the back, and they'd say, yeah, I know that sign. That's right down the street. That was my thinking on this. And I thought, man, my phone's going to ring off the hook. Well, in reality, it didn't. But this is just an idea that I have that I'm still sold on, that I think is very effective. It's very effective when I do this and take pictures or take my laptop to a home and show them this. I thought I could stimulate some interest in phone calls by providing a postcard to people right around jobs that I actually did some work. So,
okay,
are
so
you
let's
kind of
talk
following
about
my thinking on that?
Let's talk about this for a minute, okay?
Okay, cool.
A couple of things. First of all, here's the uphill battle that you're always going to be fighting against. This isn't a unique statement to you and your company. This is a statement that's applicable to all companies in your industry, okay? And here's what it is. Nobody gives a crap about you or your company or their windows or anything like that until they decide that they are interested in that. In other words, I know that sounds kind of weird thing to say.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
The majority of people aren't putting any thought or any attention into this topic at all. So when something randomly shows up or they see a sign, they're either not going to notice it or they're going to pay very little attention to it. So it's just an uphill battle. That's where this whole repetition issue comes into place. Now, here's what let me give you some constructive feedback on this postcard, okay? Mm-hmm. If you sent this to me and I recognize this is my house and now you've got some windows on there and I flipped it over and I see the sign, that's really all I'm seeing, right?
Right.
That's what I'm getting from you. I'm getting a picture of my house with some windows on it, and I'm getting a picture of your sign on the back, correct? I just wanted to make sure, triple sure that I'm right. Okay.
No, you are correct. That is correct. That is correct.
So I think that's pretty good, but here's the problem with this. You know the old saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words?
Yep.
Here's the problem with that. It leaves another question unanswered, which is, well, what 1,000 words? And the 1,000 words that you would use to describe this and the 1,000 words that somebody else might describe when they see it randomly land in their mailbox might not be the same words. So we get into an issue here where people might look at this and go, okay, they see this, they flip it over, they see this sign, do you recognize the sign? You are instructing them to pay attention to the sign and asking them if they recognize it, the answer to which is probably not really, or maybe, or I guess, or, you know, your best case scenario is, well, kind of, I guess. And I think instead of instructing people to recognize a sign, I think you should help them understand what kinds of things you can do with their home. And you say, well, I'm already doing that because I'm sending this picture, but in my opinion, you're falling short of something that could potentially be great. So let's reapproach this from a little bit different angle, okay?
Yeah.
So this is something that's going to take a lot of time, effort, attention, and therefore money. So it's something that you're going to want to test and see how it goes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing that I would do if I were you is I would look for homes that had needs that were fairly definitive. And I don't even know what that means. You tell me what kinds of things people are doing more often than not. Are they enclosing patios more often than not? Are they, you know, what are they? I don't really know.
The purpose of that patio was just to show you what I can do with my computer. The postcards that have the actual yard sign in it are mailers that I do right around the house where I've got a yard sign. And so my thinking on that, and I'm listening to everything you're saying, my thinking on that was the people go, hell yeah, I've seen that sign. It's right down the street. This is what this guy does. That's right, he did that house. And I thought they would call me. Obviously, that's not working. The other postcard is I drive through neighborhoods and look at houses and say, hell, they need windows, they need siding, and I then mail it to them again, thinking that they would go, that's my house. Well, that's kind of cool. Let's talk to that guy.
Okay, John, I'm with you on all that. I'm already moving past all that discussion to here's what we should do, okay? What I'm saying is this. You determine, you don't have to do it right on this call, but in general, determine what are the things that people have the most need for. Because here's what you need to understand. I would rather reach out to somebody that has a fairly obvious need than somebody that just happens to live next to one of my customers.
Mm-hmm.
You following me there?
I absolutely do.
If you have to make a choice between two prospective customers, would you rather have one that has an obvious need, like just to exaggerate the point, somebody whose siding got ripped off by a storm, or somebody that just happens to live next door to one of your customers? And the answer is, well, people that have a more definitive need. Now, I'm not suggesting that there's a lot of homes that have their siding ripped off, but what I am suggesting is there's certain types of jobs and things that you do, like you just mentioned a minute ago. You drive around and you see homes that you say, wow, this guy needs this, that, or the other. What I would recommend is this. Find some of those homes. And the reason we want to start there is because take this one right here that's on the screen right now. This guy, you're enclosing his patio. You're taking it from this to this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, who's to say that this guy has any interest at all in enclosing his patio?
Right.
I mean, maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. The fact of the matter is he probably has never even thought about it before. True enough?
Well, actually, I tried to tell you this in this specific instance.
Not this one guy. I'm talking about
right.
some random
person. Let's look at the house
person.
below. Let's look at the house below, because that's really my typical type customer siding in windows. Yeah, I see. I'm in the business. I think he needs it, and so I tried to qualify my prospects by saying that guy needs my stuff. He might be interested in my stuff.
Okay, so here's what I would do next. I would take the before picture and the after picture, and you say, well, why would I include a before picture? They already know what their house looks like. Because I want them to be able to look with definitive, instantaneous, side-by-side comparative value. And I would put something on this postcard. Maybe you put the before picture just in the upper left-hand corner fairly
I can do
small.
that. I can do that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then graphic design, you do anything you want. So then you put this other picture a little bit smaller, maybe just down to the right. You see here, like on this one on the top, you got all this yard. You could just kind of crop that out and move this down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then let's put some text on there that tells them something like, well, you tell me, what is the benefit of enclosing the patio?
Well, I don't have an answer to that because that's really not what I do. The purpose, again, that card was to show you my capabilities with a computer, and that was a specific deal I did for a friend. But again, I was just showing you what I could do with the computer. But the customer below, I think I can answer those questions.
Well, I'm going to ask. No, you know what? You're too quick to be trapped in your own world that you've been running in for the last 25 years. Just hear me out and answer the question.
Okay.
Here's the question. Why would somebody want to enclose their patio like this? What reasons would they give? If you ask this guy, why do you want to enclose this, what would he tell you?
Well, I'll tell you in this specific instance, he said, I'm trying to add some more livable space to my house.
Okay, keep going.
And,
is he trying to enclose a patio, or is he trying to
yes.
Is he trying to create an extra room? That's two different things, right?
Well, yeah, that's a great statement. He's doing both. He wants to enclose his patio to create an extra room.
Okay. Now, you're in Oklahoma, right?
Right.
Which is not that much different than Texas. There may be some issues here, like actually being able to utilize your patio, because in the summertime in Texas, and I'm assuming in Oklahoma, it's too freaking hot to actually use your patio.
That's exactly his issue. That's exactly his issue.
That's got to have something to do with this guy's decision, right?
Right, it does. It does. He specifically told me that he can't use his patio. That part of his house right there faces the west. And he goes, man, I get out here in the summer. He goes, it is so stinking hot out here. So we were talking about high-performance windows, and, it's not unique just to this guy. But
you see what I'm saying? All I'm asking you to do is think through these issues, and here's what you'll find. The only reason anybody would ever want to enclose their patio is so that they could use that space more often throughout the year in a more comfortable type of environment. That's really the main reason that people do that. True enough?
Right.
Okay, great. So you put the before picture, you put the after picture, and then you put something on there that says something to the effect of, did you realize that you could be enjoying your patio year-round, even during the hottest months of the summer, by simply enclosing the patio? It creates more space. It makes it more enjoyable. It gives you, more outdoor living all year round. Whatever, something like that, right?
Right. I follow it. I follow what you're saying.
Now, the guy sees that. He sees not just the picture, but he sees that text right down here on the yard, down here kind of on the left-hand side. Maybe you put that writing that I just said. Then you flip this over. Instead of saying recognize this sign, which maybe he does and maybe he doesn't, and maybe you're going to send this to somebody who doesn't live next to somebody that had a sign. Doesn't really matter. Here's what I'd like to put. We could transform your home, make it more livable, make it more beautiful, and we can do it for as little. Do you offer financing?
Yes.
I strongly recommend you do, because here's what people want to hear. And we can do it for as little as $199 a month. And then people look at that and they go, huh, because I'm going to tell you something. The biggest uphill battle that you're going to be competing against is not your competitors, not what other people are selling, not even your price points, but you're going to be competing against people that just aren't even thinking about this subject. Do you have kids, John?
I'm sorry?
Do you have kids?
Yes.
How old is your youngest?
22.
So no matter what the local orthodontist says, you don't care because you don't have anybody that needs braces. You know what I'm saying?
Very good.
You understand what I'm saying here?
Yeah. Right.
Okay?
I do.
Now, it's a little bit different because people, you know, have their home and they need stuff, but they're not thinking about it, right? So if you come in there and you show it to them, it's their house, and they go, wow, that's pretty cool. Now, here's what's going to happen. A lot of people are going to look at that and go, well, I don't care about that. And those are people you're probably not going to sell, but you just got to roll with the numbers and see if you can get enough that do think that's cool. They flip it over. They see, we could do this to your house, and we can do it for as little as $199 a month or $149 a month or some number that immediately overcomes the very first objection that people are going to have, which is, well, you know, we can't afford that.
Rich, you've already gave me a great idea, because on my website I did quite a bit of research with finance companies last year to find somebody who could offer my company the ability to say, how about windows in your home for $89 a month? And I found a company that could do that, and it's actually on my website. It says windows $39 a month. Click here. So, yeah, you've given me a great idea. This is exactly
Let me give you a little spiel on this, okay? I'm going to give you my little spiel, and I'm giving it to you so you can hear, but I'm also just giving it to everybody else that's on this call, because that's really the main intention of this call, is for you to learn something about your business, but everybody else to take something away too. And here's my spiel, okay? I am a huge, huge, huge believer in monthly payments and financing for home improvement products. I think it makes a bigger difference than 95% of home improvement company owners give it credence for. They hate it because it costs them more money. You got to give up 5.5%, 6% sometimes, even more depending on the finance deal. But the statistics are clear that it absolutely, quantifiably, without any room for argument, raises the total amount of the sale across the board. Let me give you a couple of examples. Example one, this goes back 2 years now. My wife took all of my kids. I got 6 kids. Took them all to the dentist. I had one that needed wisdom teeth out. I had one that had a gap problem that needed some extensive work. We had a bunch of we had all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it was $8,200.
Ouch.
And I'm thinking $8,200. And so immediately I go into, well, what can we put off mode? And it's not because I don't have $8,200, but that $8,200 is going to come out of savings. It's going to come out of money that was earmarked for a vacation or for whatever, right?
Right.
Who's got $8,200 just laying around doing nothing? Nobody. I don't care how much money a guy has. $8,200 is a big freaking chunk. Then I found out they had 12 months, no interest, 12 equal payments. It was something like $750 a month. It fit right into the budget, and guess what? We didn't even have a conversation about, well, what can we put off? We just did it all. Story number 2, I brought this to the attention of some of my customers. One of them is a guy in Memphis that has a company called Incognito Custom Closets. They're selling closets for an average price of about $3,000. I told him, look, $3,000 is a lot of money. In his mind, it's not a lot of money compared to, some things, like how much is siding? $15,000, right?
Yep.
$3,000 is not a big deal. Same question. Who's got $3,000 laying around in their wallet that they don't have anything to do with? Answer, almost nobody. I said, look, go ahead and get signed up. They got signed up with GE Capital. And I just talked to him this last week. I said, how's that going? Because they're just getting started with it. And he says, well, we need to learn how to promote it better. He says, but let me tell you what happened. The first time we went out to use it, we got a $7,700 sale because the customer said, well, heck, let's just do all of our closets at once instead of just doing the main closet.
All right, good.
Okay, so this works. And what I would do if I were you, number 1, before and after, you writing these principles down?
I got it. Yeah, I'm writing.
Number 2, a description on the picture side of that postcard of what you can do. Number 3, on the other side, or maybe even on the front side, we can do all this for some low number per month, $89, $149, whatever. I don't care what the number is. You figure that out. And then here's number 3. Well, number 4, you need to design this so it looks better, okay?
Right.
Your graphic design right now basically says, hey, I'm a guy with a pickup truck.
Yeah, I know. That's always bothered me, especially since I've gotten introduced to you. That's always bothered me. That's why I haven't done any more of these until I decide, with your help, your input on what to put on here. But I tell you what, your idea about financing has really hit a chord with me because that's exactly right.
Well, let me tell you this. Graphic design costs money, obviously. It's not free. Somebody's got to do it. But you can leverage the cost. For instance, the amount of money it takes to design a nice-looking website versus a not-so-nice-looking website is really not that much greater, but it lasts for the rest of forever, right? If you take the time to design these postcards, it costs more to do it, but now you've got a template that you could use in the future. It's not like you have to pay $1 bazillion every time you do it. Maybe a little bit every time you do it, but not $1 bazillion. Okay? So here's the 4 steps. Number 1, before and after. Number 2, caption it so they know what they're looking at. Number 3, let them know you can do it for a low price. Number 4, put it all together in a nice design package. And then here's number 5. It's what you said when you were listening as you drove across the Texas Panhandle. Continue to pummel the 11 daylights out of that person.
Right.
Now, let me give you a little bit of discussion on this. I said earlier, it's going to take time, attention, effort, and money. It would be very much easier to be able to send the same postcard to 100 people and to hit those same 100 people a bunch of times. That would be way easier. It's going to be hard to say, okay, let's go find, I don't know, 25 or 50 homes, take the photo, enhance it with your products, go through this process, and then send that postcard to them maybe 10 times over the course of 10 weeks. Now, here's what I want you to think about as you process all this information. This is something that I'm going to strongly encourage you to do as a test in small quantities and just kind of see what happens. Because here's what I know. You're going against an uphill battle from the very beginning, but you're doing a lot of things in steps 1 through 4, and then with step 5, they're going to help you climb that hill, right?
Right.
So maybe you start with 10, okay? Go out and photograph 10 homes. Remember what I told you to start with? Homes that have needs that are fairly obvious and clear-cut and popular things that you do a lot, and that are going to be worth enough money for you that when you get the job sold, it's going to be a pretty good sale, right?
Yes.
And do 10 of them. And send out 10 every week for 10 weeks and see what happens. And if you get a sale, great. Maybe send them out for another 10 weeks. I don't know. And then try 10 other houses. And then if that seems to work, then try 20 houses. And maybe you hire a guy and all he does is go around and find houses and takes pictures and manipulates them and works these postcards. And here's what you're doing. You're fishing in a very, very, very small stream for very, very, very big fish. Instead of fishing in a huge river or ocean, which is what you do when you send out, here's 1,000 postcards out there.
Right. Right. Rich, I got to tell you something. I was getting a little discouraged with this this past summer, and then I just said, I got to stay with this. So I did this in an area where I had a job, and I got to tell you, it was great. There was one street out of the neighborhood, one street in. The people who put siding and windows used my products were in a great location where everybody in the neighborhood drove through. I got a response from somebody, how'd you do that to my house, man? We like those windows. They bought windows from me. When I was finished with the work, they said, do you do siding too? I said, well, yeah, that's what I did down there. And they said, go look at my dad's house. And that was in another part of town. I took pictures of it, provided all of the before and after different ideas on the house. I don't mind telling you this. My involvement was around 4 hours involvement on this, going and talking to them, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line was a little over $9,000 in profit for my company. Then I said, hell, I'm going to keep doing this. This has got to work. This has got to work. Yeah, so your ideas about the financing is really, I think, could be the missing link on here, because I never have put on there $89 a month, or, I've never done anything like that.
I'm glad that you're excited about the financing, but let's remember there's 5 distinct steps that I put in here that I think the combination of the 5 will make the difference.
Right, right. I got them. I wrote them down, and I'm going to try to create something. And so what I will do then is create it, and then I'm going to run it by you again to see what you think about it.
All right. And if you want to reach out to Dale Goree over here in our office, I know you know Dale. He can help you with the design if you need that. And we'll take it from there, okay?
Cool. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right. We're going to go to, let's see, who's next up? Let's see. That would be Steve. Let me put John on pause and Steve. Steve, how you doing today? Oh, you know what, Steve? There's there's a minor problem here. I see that you are dialed in over voice over internet protocol, and that actually does not work. You're going to need to dial in via the phone, punch in your access code, and then I'll be able to talk to you. Yeah, let me see something here real quick. Okay, while you do that, let's go to our next submitter, which is Cindy Rush. Let's see if I can find Cindy. There you are.
Hi, Rich.
Hey, Cindy, how you doing today?
I'm doing well.
I don't recognize your name. Why don't you introduce yourself to me?
I'm Cindy Rush. I'm co-owner of Davis Window and Door in Atlanta, Georgia. We've been with your program for a little while, but just really getting started with it. There was a few, snafus, but we're just getting up and running with you.
Okay. Good to hear that. Nice to meet you, by the way.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, too.
And you are the co-owner. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we have not done an identity consultation with you yet. Is that true?
We did. Yes. We did it about 6-7 months ago, but there was there were some problems that
it's been a while
that we haven't. Yes.
Okay. In the last I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 months, I've done all of the identity consultations, and I did not recognize you, so that would explain it. Let's go ahead and look at what you've submitted. Let me share my screen here. And why don't you tell me what we're looking at here and what you're trying to accomplish?
Well, what we were going to get involved in was the Every Door Direct program through the post office.
Okay.
I don't know. Are you familiar with that?
I am. It's just for everybody else's sake on the call. It's a program called Every Door Direct Mail that allows you as a business owner to send mailers to, as the name would imply, every door within a given geographic parameter at a reduced cost.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
And so the areas that we were targeting with this is previous customers, of course, higher contract amounts, but getting the mail route, assuming that, people in the same geographic area would have the same need. We haven't done any direct mail pieces in a while, and this is something that we were kind of putting together. We were going to do, a test with it to see if, there's any reply whatsoever. Direct mail just really hasn't been very good for us. So I don't know if it's just our mail pieces or if we just don't have the patience with it. But this is what we've put together for that particular task.
Okay. Now, were you on the line with John a minute ago?
Yes.
Okay, because some of that stuff is going to apply to here. So typically when you send this out, or according to your plan at least, I don't know if you've done it yet or not, but when you send these out, how long after the job that you had done before will this go out? Is it more of an immediate thing, or is it more of a while later thing?
It's a little while later.
Okay. So here's the problem with that. I'm trying to address your question of, direct mail doesn't really seem to work. The problem with this is you're sending a postcard to somebody who really has no connection to your company, has no particular interest in the topic, and who really is going to be hard-pressed to respond to something like this. They're going to fall prey. This is what I call the law of 9,344. I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about that before. Have you?
I have not.
Here's what the law of 9,344 is. It states the following. Everybody has 9,344 things going on in their life at any given moment. From the extremely important and profound, like perhaps your upcoming wedding of your daughter or something major like that, all the way down to, gosh, my calculator battery seems to not be working. I can get it to work if I kind of jostle the batteries, but I really need to order a new one or get go down to the store and get a new one, and everything in between, right?
Yeah.
What should you have for lunch today is included on that list. And it's really hard for any given topic to make it to the top of that list. Typically, people decide to buy things when they have some sort of an incident that occurs in their life that causes them to feel pain in the area of whatever's being sold. So I wouldn't think about my calculator battery in a million, billion, zillion years until my calculator quit working. Then I've got pain called, man, I need my calculator, so I have to get a battery. But you could send me a postcard saying, hey, we've got the best calculator batteries in town at the best price, and I'm going to look at it and go, who cares?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're with me on this, right?
I am.
There's another problem that compounds this, and I'm not trying to be, the bearer of negative news here, but I think it's important for everybody to understand what we're fighting against. So the other thing that we're fighting against is the internet. You say, well, what does that mean? Well, here's what that means. In days gone by, if somebody had some sort of incident that occurred in their life that caused them some sort of pain as it related to, in your case, windows and doors and things like that, they really didn't have a way to go investigate and find solutions beyond calling companies who service that thing. So the Yellow Pages were big, and advertising worked because when people didn't necessarily have enough pain to go to the Yellow Pages and look somebody up, they would be open to a discussion when an advertisement appeared in their sphere. So if it was a newspaper, radio, TV, whatever, they would see that ad and they'd say, yeah, you know what, gosh, I do have a problem with that. And they would look at the ad, maybe they would call. Now, when people feel that pain, they tend, more often than not, to look it up on the internet. I've got this handy dandy little device in my hand right here. It's called an iPad mini. Probably heard of it, or similar devices. And if that's not handy, I've got my laptop. And if that's not handy, I've got my cell phone. Have you ever had this experience before? Not this exact experience, but have you ever had an experience like this? You're sitting there watching TV. Again, whatever. Don't take the specifics. But you're sitting there watching TV, and a commercial comes on for the new show starring Kevin Bacon. And you see Kevin Bacon, and you think, wow, he's looking kind of old. Because you remember him from Footloose, right? And you go, wow, I wonder how old Kevin Bacon is. And every year until about 2 years ago, you would have wondered, and then you would have just forgotten about it. But what do you do now? You pull out your phone. You don't even have to Google it anymore. You just tell Siri, hey, Google Kevin Bacon. Or you say, Siri, how old is Kevin Bacon? Let's try it here. How old is Kevin Bacon?
Here's what I found.
He's 54 years, 6 months, and 14 days old.
Yeah.
Now, are you following why I'm telling you this? Let me make it perfectly clear. Because we now have access to information immediately on anything that we think about, no matter how important or unimportant it is. So if somebody gets the idea, gosh, I really need to do something with my windows or doors, which is going to be predicated on what? Something that happened with their windows or doors that caused them some level of pain. They're going to look it up. They're going to have an ability to scratch that itch immediately. So now, 4 days later, 4 weeks later, 4 months later, when your postcard shows up in their mailbox, guess what? In their mind, they've already scratched that itch. This is the reason why advertising in general works less than it used to.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what we're fighting against. So now, how do you overcome that? Well, one of the ways that we went into a lot of detail with John on the last one is I said, hey, the more specific you can get with this direct mail and the more you can customize it to the individual, that's going to be better. Without going to that extreme, if you were to engage in a what I call a proximity marketing campaign, here's what I would recommend, a couple of things.
Okay.
Number one, I wouldn't really bother going back to your older customers and doing proximity campaigns around them.
Okay.
You know why? Because there's no connection.
Okay.
I mean, I can't even remember who installed my Windows. I'm hypothetically speaking. I can't even remember who installed my Windows 11 months ago, let alone who my neighbors had. If they had somebody replace their Windows, I don't know. I'm not paying attention. Okay, so that's number one.
Okay.
what was number one? I forgot what I said. My train of thought is fleeting.
Don't bother with older customers.
Yeah. Okay. So then that leaves us with newer customers, ones that are current customers. Okay, that's pretty good. So here's what I would do. I would use what we call in MYM, what we call a super robust proximity marketing. Traditional proximity marketing says, here's a postcard similar to what you've got on the screen here. We'll send out 2 or 3 and we'll see what happens. For all the reasons I just went through in detail, it doesn't work very well. It hasn't worked very well, and I don't really know anybody that's using it that works very well. That's what we call preponderance of evidence. I wouldn't do it. Here's what I would do. Get the customer involved. So you've got some sort of discounts or some sort of price drops that you can offer to your customers through your normal selling process. I would include with that some sort of an incentive for participating in your marketing campaign. Here's what I mean. Number one, I would have some sort of a sheet that you have the customers look at, sign on to, that says, look, if you will allow us to use your home in terms of taking pictures, if you're willing to send a testimonial, if you're willing to give us online reviews, then we will give you a certain discount. They also, as a part of this, have to do, number one, put a job site sign in their yard. You probably already use job site signs, true enough?
We do, yes.
Okay, so that's good. But now they're going to be aware of this. It's going to be in their yard for a certain amount of times. There's a whole discussion we could have about homeowners associations and what if they don't let me use signs, and the answer is, well, we can't do anything about that. But for the ones where you can, put the sign. Number two, put a take one box. And in that box, you need to have a really good flyer that is very powerful, identity-based, that talks about why people should do business with you, what the advantages of your products, etc., and have the customer be responsible for keeping that take one box full. They may or may not do it. They may or may not actually get around to doing it. But if you leave them with 100 copies of the flyer, and as a condition of you giving them the discount, it doesn't have to be some huge discount, half price, but 2%, whatever you're normally giving anyway, just work it into that. And now they're responsible for putting this in there, because here's what people will do. They'll take those things. They're out walking their dog. They're out doing whatever. And the neighborhood kids that are playing football will take them and trash them and burn them and all those kinds of things. That's just part of life. But people legitimately will take them and look at them. Number 3, I would do a series of about 3 postcards that goes out at the same time that the sign is still out there and the take one box is still out there. Those postcards need to focus on benefits of ownership, meaning why should somebody even bother to replace their windows in the first place? Number 2, why are you different and better, which is another way to say your identity. And number 3, some sort of social proof. Here's why your neighbor is using us. Right now, if we look at the screen with your postcard on it, here's what it says. Let's assume that this was sent out to a recent current customer instead of a past customer, okay? Your neighbor down the street just discovered the Davis difference when making their decision to replace their windows. See, this sounds very platitudinal. It sounds very expected. Experience the Davis difference. And it's my screen's just going off there. And it's going to cause people to kind of look at it and go, Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get more identity-based. And I don't know what your identity is because I haven't talked to you in a tremendous amount of detail, but we want to base those messages off of your identity. The next thing I would do is I would send a check mailer. Check mailer is designed to look as if it were a check. It's got your company name on it. It is sent to the customers with an incentive. They've seen it now on the heels of having seen these other postcards. You're going to see a common theme between what I told John a minute ago and what I'm telling you now, which is we've got a frequency here, and we've also got a little bit of a mixing it up in terms of we've got the sign, then we've got the take ones, now we've got postcards, now we've got a check mailer. The next thing I would do is create a testimonial mailer, something that your client would sign off on. They don't have to literally sign it, but they would say, okay, this is representative of my experience, that they would send. Let me back up. You will send it, but they're willing to let you send it. But here's how you send it. You send it in a plain number 10 envelope with a hand stamp with a return address of your customer, so that when the prospect receives it, guess what they're seeing? Hey, this came from right around here. This came from, 417 Marshall Lane, which is one street over from where I happen to live. And if I see that, I don't know who, John Dumbledon is, but I do know that that street is real close to my house, and it appears to be hand addressed because computers can hand address them, and it has a regular stamp on it. So I'm going to open it because there's a proximity there. I'm going to open it. I'm going to see a letter that says, hey, you know, I know you may not know me, and you may not be in the market for new windows, but I just want to let you know we had a great experience. We worked with Davis. Here's what they did. Identity, identity, identity. They've had an offer, blah, blah, blah. So this is a letter that gets sent out. The next thing I would do is the hardest one. It's the one that everybody says, that sounds like a good idea, but they never do it. But it's the most important one after everything else that I just talked about. Because look what I just talked about. Sign, take one, 3 postcards, check mailer. What was next? Testimonial mailer, 5 mailers. We've got an investment in here that is significant at this point. It's growing, right? This is not cheap. The next thing is I would hire a person, a young person if possible, a man if possible, because I don't feel comfortable sending females out. Maybe that's a sexist thing to say, but I think it's a safety thing. And I would have them knock the doors of the homes that you sent this to. Okay? I would have them knock the doors. Okay. Say, wow, canvassing, that's hard. We don't do canvassing, or that takes a van full of guys. I'm not talking about a van full of guys that get dumped out at the corner and they spread out all over town. That's a whole different topic, and for most companies that's not attainable because it requires more management skills and more hiring abilities than are available with the resources of the community. Yeah. But to hire a single person, they don't have to be single, one single person that goes out, knocks these doors, give them a little incentive for success when people say yes and when you get appointments and when sales happen. Now the field has already been plowed a little bit. Now they're going to go in and they're going to harvest a little bit. And this makes a huge difference. And you give them a clipboard. It says, look, we've mailed to 100 addresses around this house. What I want you to do is I want you to take this door hanger, and we use a very specific kind of door hanger for this that has a big dollar bill on it. It's 17 inches tall by 7.3 inches wide. It's tremendously huge. It commands, I'm going to say that word again, it commands attention. And the amount on the dollar bill can be modified and customized to be whatever amount is relevant for a promotion or a discount or a giveaway that you might be holding. Maybe in the spirit of the financing that we just talked about, maybe you can sell windows for $149 a month and you can create a $149 bill. Whatever. There's lots of ways to do it. Maybe you're going to give them $1,000 off if they buy 10 windows. So we create a $1,000 bill. It's completely customizable. But guess what's on the other side of that big bill?
My identity.
Identity. Man, you're catching on quick. But, it's pretty straightforward stuff, right? It's not rocket science. You give this person the clipboard. You say, look, I want you to go knock these 100 doors. Today is Tuesday. I want you to go knock these doors between the hours of 4 and 6 p.m. So they go knock 100 doors, and they don't talk. There's no response at 70 houses. So they make a note. Nobody was home, and I left a door hanger. The 30 that they did talk to somebody, they make a note. They said no. There was a kid there, but no adult. Or they were interested, or, whatever the result was. And then the next day, you say, look, tomorrow, Wednesday, I want you to go between 6 and 8, a little bit later, see if you can catch people that weren't home at the other time. And they only knock the 70 doors. And then they go a third time and a fourth time until they've actually reached the majority of the people. This is how you actually make this work. Now, this process really, really sucks. And the reason is because it takes time, effort, attention, and money. It's hard to do. But here's what is not available to us anymore. Go scatter shoot 1,000 postcards.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. We wish it worked.
Yeah, we do.
But here's who the spoils go to. The victor is the one who is willing to not just outspend, but also outthink and outwork everybody else. So, and, this is just one way to get business. There's other ways to get business, but this is one that if you've got the wherewithal to do it, it can make a big difference. But you really have to work it.
Well, the 3 postcards that you talked about, at what okay, I put the sign
Fast.
With the, okay.
This all needs to happen very quick because people...
Like 2-3 days in between the postcards, or like 2-3 weeks?
No, a week at the most. And the reason is because people's attention span and their memory is really, really short.
Okay.
I mean, think about if you were to receive a postcard in your personal at-home mailbox today, let's just say for a local dry cleaner. You know, there's probably 20 dry cleaners within 5 miles of your house or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you live out in the country, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
So and you get a postcard from one of them. Well, if you got another postcard 3 or 4 weeks from now from that same one, would it even register? And the answer is it wouldn't even register.
Yeah, no.
So
Okay.
we've just got to keep in mind that our customers, our prospects, really aren't all that different than we are on a personal level. We suffer from the law of 9,344. They suffer from it. They need to see things over and over again. We need to see things over and over again. So just keep that in mind. Look at the things that are on the screen right now. We look at it and go, okay, you know, another satisfied customer. Check out our reviews at guildquality.com. You know, we love our new windows from Davis. It just all has this very staged, inauthentic, expected, trite feel to it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that to criticize or to say, man, you guys are so dumb. How could you possibly do that? This is what most people do, and it's why it just normally doesn't work.
Okay. So we were just thinking that it didn't, that it would work because nobody's doing it anymore.
Well, there's a reason nobody's doing it anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So there's a chicken and an egg there, but I think, you know, let's pick the chicken and say it's not working.
Okay. I mean, that's all well received, and I took a lot of notes, and we'll get busy.
Yeah, so let me just tack one additional comment onto this, which, as follows. There's a lot of different ways to go about generating leads and getting business, and we've talked about one very narrow thing. It took 30 minutes to get through it, but don't take away from this call, well, this guy Rich said that the only way to do this is as follows. The way that I've described to you is difficult. It's hard. It takes time and effort, but there's a lot of other things you could do too. That being said, the way that I've just described does work. And in fact, if you want to reach out to Dale in our office, all of those pieces, we make that available to our customers as part of what we call a super robust proximity package, so that you don't have to really think through, you know, what does that testimonial letter say and all that stuff. We write this stuff. We make this stuff available. Okay. So it's something we can help with, but even if with help it doesn't sound like something you want to pursue, again, there's a lot of different ways to generate business. But I'll tell you this, you know this, and everybody else on this call knows this, it's getting harder and harder, and those who are more creative and putting more effort into it, those are the ones that are, you know, reaping the reward. So thanks for participating. It's good to meet you.
Thanks, Rich. Nice to meet you as well.
All right. We'll put you on hold and go to Steve. Okay, Steve, I see you've dialed in. Now here's what you need to do. Please type this into your keypad on your phone, pound 103 pound. Voila, there you are. How you doing, Steve?
Good, Rich. How are you?
Doing pretty awesome today.
It's cold here.
Well, duh, you live in Pittsburgh. What'd you expect in January? That was supposed to be funny.
No, it was. But even so, wind chills below zero still are cold.
Oh, I don't even understand it. The whole northern, you know, I hate living in Texas because it's so hot in the summer, but I can't imagine living where it gets below zero. That's crazy. Anyway, let's take a look at what you've got on the screen here. Tell me what this is, and let's talk about it.
We are going to be running an advertorial sometime in the next couple of weeks in a couple local papers. And we won the Better Business Bureau Torch Award for the second time recently. And the only you can only win that every 4 years, and we won it 4 years ago, and the first year we were eligible, we won it again. So, you know, we're just trying to promote that fact, but then also talk about how we do business. So rather than just run an ad, we thought we'd do it as an advertorial, which could verbalize a lot of things, but at the same time get the point across to at least initiate some interest.
Okay. Steve, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
When I say you're a big man, I mean that literally, because I know you're 6'8", but you're going to need some broad shoulders for this, okay?
Okay.
I think the idea of an advertorial is good, but I think the way that you're approaching this really isn't very good.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because this is, if I take this at face value, and what I mean by that is I'm an average reader flipping through the paper on a random day with no expectation for anything other than, you know, something useful and interesting should be on a given page, right? That's what people are looking for in the newspaper.
Right.
So as I flip and I see this, what does it take for a window company to be recognized by the Better Business Bureau as the area's most ethical company twice? And then as I get into this, the driving philosophy is always to do the right thing. That's just one of the many reasons the company was selected as the first-time recipient of the Better Business. And immediately, this is, it really, honestly, is pretty boring.
Okay.
Now, I know it's exciting to you that you won the award, and I know that there's a lot of meaning and impact and all those neat things that goes into winning the Torch Award, but it really is pretty boring the way that this is approached. So that being said, let's find a way to make this not boring, and there's two different approaches that I would like to explore. By the way, I'm just going through this for the first time. I haven't sat down and sketched out 17 different strategies, but there's two that come to me off the top of my head. So here's the two, and I'm going to mention them both, and then we'll dive into them both, okay?
Okay.
The first is I would completely change the topic altogether and not talk about the Torch Award. That's method one. Method two is I would find a more interesting way to talk about the Torch Award, and let's go down that path first, okay?
Okay.
So I wrote an ad one time for a sunroom company that had something to the effect of the following headline. Well, you know what? Let me see if I can find the ad real quick, okay? Because it'll be more powerful than me just trying to think it up off the top of my head. Can you give me just a second? All right. Okay. All right. Now, this is a mock-up of the ad that I did later for an example. And this is an ad. This isn't really an advertorial, but I want you to get a feel for where I'm going with this. Okay.
Okay.
And I think I know you well enough to know that you'll catch on to this immediately. So here's the ad. We ripped the entire sunroom down and started over. We've installed over 1,000 sunrooms without a hitch, but let's face it, sometimes mistakes happen. I'd love to tell you that every single one of our 1,200 plus sunrooms that we've installed has been perfect, but it's just not true. We've made our share of mistakes, sometimes because we have the wrong people on the job, sometimes because, well, things just go wrong for no reason. But I'll tell you this, no other home improvement company in the Southeast, maybe even the entire country, will make sure you get exactly what you paid for no matter what. Let me give you a case in point. April 2002, we sold a sunroom to Mr. and Mrs. Lee Walters, and then it goes on to tell this story about how it messed up, it rained, it destroyed their property, the company swooped in, fixed the problem, put every effort into it, paid for them to get new furnishings, new flooring, and ended up taking a huge loss. And the point of this is that's just the kind of company we are. Now, I'm not telling you that this is the right story for you, because it's not, but here's what I'm telling you. If you want a Torch Award, it's a lot more interesting to hear about something specific in a story that allowed you to be the kind of company that could earn something called a Torch Award than it is to hear we won a Torch Award because, quote unquote, we just do things right. So here's what I would challenge you to do. I would challenge you right now on the spot. What are some situations that you've been ethical, that were maybe not hard for you to be ethical, because I know the kind of guy you are, and it's not a hard decision to make the right choice, but maybe at a cost to your company. You following what I'm asking you?
Yeah, no, I'm following what you're asking. I'm trying to think.
I'll give you another example while you're thinking.
Okay.
I'm going to pull this up. This is Jason Weber. I dropped out of college, took a beating in the framing business, and learned a $372,000 lesson in doing the right thing. Let's face it, your main concern when you hire hiring a remodeling contractor revolves around two major issues. Can you trust the remodel's competency? And he goes into this story about how he built. He got in the framing business. The industry collapsed, and they ended up taking a $372,000 loss. But instead of filing for bankruptcy, they stuck it out, paid off their loans, and came out stronger on the other side. Okay.
Okay.
So my question to you is, when has your metal been tested?
Yeah, well, I mean, one thing I can think of, and this has been a couple years ago, where we were putting in an entry door, and the company's messed up. We went out to install it. We opened the door up, and it's the wrong door. It's a steel door rather than a fiberglass door. Next time they sent, so we reordered it. Next time they sent us the wrong size. It was too big for the opening. And there was one other problem, and again, we were stuck with it, but we ended up giving the customer the door for free. I mean, we eventually got the right door, right size, right style, right color, but we gave it to them for free.
Okay.
Because of the hassle of everything that went wrong, even though we didn't have any control over those things. We picked the supplier, and the supplier didn't do the right job, and we felt we owed it to the customer for the hassle.
And how much did that cost you?
About $8,000 by the time we were done.
How much?
$8,000.
Okay. Anytime the number is that big, the story automatically gets interesting, right?
Right.
Okay, so here's what people like to read, especially in the newspaper. Stories. So let's find a way to tell the story. That's all we want to do is tell the story. You know, it's not that much different than see. We go over here to Energy Swing Windows, and our nerdy basketball player, right? So this is kind of the same thing, right?
Yep.
It's just it's telling something in a story format that makes it much more interesting than just the cold hard facts. You know, the cold hard facts are we won the Torch Award, and the reason we won the Torch Award is because we treat people right. We have a no fine print warranty. You know, it's kind of boring. It's true and it's good, but it's kind of boring. So let's take that story and you know, turn it into a story. So what we've got now, what does it take for a window company to be recognized by the Better Business Bureau as the area's most ethical company twice? Let's go over here. Okay. How long ago was it that you lost the $8,000?
Oh, probably 4 years ago.
Company loses $8,200 on botched door project. Owner says, I do it again in a heartbeat. Okay, now, I'm just casually flipping through the newspaper, right? And I see this headline. Is this more interesting than somebody won a torch award, which I don't know what a torch award is? Well, yeah. Well, let's see if we can make it even more interesting. You're supposed to be helping me here, Steve. How many companies would be willing to take an $8,200 loss on a job when the problem wasn't their fault? Sure, everybody's had an experience where something went wrong. Maybe your steak came back overcooked, or your meal at the restaurant wasn't exactly what you ordered, and they gave you a free dessert. But what happens when the stakes are raised and $8,200 is a stake? A local company, Energy Swing Windows, had to face just that situation with a door that was ordered for their customers. Here's what happened. They ordered the door, blah, blah, blah. It was wrong. Very short, one paragraph thing. Long story short, it was the supplier's order, had nothing to do with Energy Swing. They did everything right, but the customer was frustrated, upset, and really was caught in the middle. Energy Swing did the right thing. They said, to heck with this, even though it's not technically our fault, our contract is with our customer, and it's imperative that we do the right thing. It's just the way it was brought up, said Steve Rennenkamp, owner of Energy Swing Windows. When we say we're going to do something, that's what we do. This kind of integrity is what's led this company to win the Better Business Bureau Torch Award, specifically set aside and reserved for companies that show ethical behavior in the face of crisis, hardship, and a sacrifice to the company. Truth is, not this type of ethics and sacrifice is hard to find in any company, but think about the home improvement and contracting business. It's almost non-existent. How many times have contractors pushed the ethical limits and boundaries only to say, well, it was in the contract? This is a completely different kind of company. You know, then a quote from Steve Rennenkamp. You know, I was raised in a family where making the right choice was not optional. I remember one time when my dad, blah, 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 whatever, I don't know, maybe quick personal anecdote there. When we say we're going to do something, absolutely, positively, it's going to get done. There's been other instances where we've also had to do the same thing, where the losses weren't quite as great, but two I can think of off the top of my head, we lost $1,200 and $850. Naturally, we try to minimize these issues, and typically things go absolutely right and perfect. But in the cases where they don't, how a company reacts shows the real test of their character. In fact, it's been said that what squeezes out between the cracks of extreme pressure is called character. Maybe that's a quote your dad could have taught you, right? I actually heard it from a guy named Todd Bray, but I like the quote.
No,
that's just the way we operate. You know, boom, there's your article, right?
Yep.
There's a more interesting thing. Now, it doesn't mean that every person that turns to that page, you know, really gives a rat's butt about your company or some story, but you got a fighting chance now.
I agree.
As I understand it, what you're trying to accomplish with this ad is to get people to go, wow, this sounds like a really great company.
You're right, and I totally agree with what you just said about showing examples, and the examples led to the award rather than we got the award and here's how we run the business.
Well, let me tell you something, Steve. I know for a fact that when it comes to the world of public speakers, I'm not anywhere close to the best. But here's one little thing that I excel at, which is finding little experiences and telling little stories. And it's a lot more fun to hear that you should send a postcard 30 times in a row, because that's kind of like this company in South Dakota called Wall Drug that has these billboards every 5 seconds. It's just a lot easier for people to grasp onto the story.
Right.
And if you start becoming a master of telling stories, then people will start to pay attention. And this is one of the principles of Power Talk is to use stories to illustrate your points, because they're interesting to people. You can get people to read this story that would have zero interest in reading a story about a typical article about some company that won some stupid award that they don't care or know anything about.
Right.
And as we go back to your original article, even if somebody makes it past that headline, I'm telling you, this first paragraph is a killer. The driving philosophy at Energy Swing Windows is always do the right thing. That's just one of the many reasons the company was selected as the first 2-time recipient. So now the fact that you won the award becomes the conclusion to the story.
Right.
In fact, this award is handed out every year, but nobody's ever won it twice. But the fact is, it was so glaring that this company was so ethical that they couldn't. There was no way around it. Or
Yep.
Whatever.
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
That's where I would go with this advertorial. I think an advertorial can be very, very powerful, but they're usually approached more straightforward, typical, like what you've got here, instead of using that story bent. And understandably, it's not super easy to sit down and write those stories, but hopefully I've given you enough bullet points and talking points, and you can go back and listen to this call later if you need to, hear those things one more time, and you can sketch out and write an article. I know you've got an ability to write and a good pen in you, so just that outline hopefully will get you where you need to go.
Oh, it's tremendous help, Rich. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's it. Thanks, Steve. Good to talk to you again.
You too.
Okay.
Stay
well.
cool.
Oh yeah, it's about 52 degrees here right now, so we're loving it. So anyway, have a good luck with that, and everybody else, thanks for being on the webinar today. We'll look forward to talking to you on Thursday. We're going to have our first, not ever, but first in about 3 years, Contractor Business Accelerator webinar on Thursday, which is going to be followed by our Insiders Open Forum. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks so much for participating. Bye now. See you.